Several years ago, while I was getting my Bachelor's of Science over at Utah Tech, we did a certain writing assignment where we did a compare and contrast with different creation stories. And the Onondagan creation story really stood out to me. Check this out. This is right out of my college textbook. Before this earth existed, there was only water. It stretched as far as one could see. And in that water, there were birds and animals swimming around. Far above, in the clouds, there was a skyland. In that skyland, there was a great and beautiful tree. It had 4 white roots, which stretched to each of the sacred directions. And from its branches, all kinds of fruits and flowers grew. I've barely just read the first paragraph, and there's already a ton of common themes with biblical cosmology. And as a heads up, the Onondagan Native Americans are a tribe from upstate New York. Now I'm going to highlight a few of these similarities I'm seeing here. Before this earth existed, there was only water. Here is Genesis chapter 1. In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. And the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep. And the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters. But please notice how the dry land does not appear until the 3rd day. So already, that's a huge commonality. But there's more. This also describes a skyland and a great and beautiful tree. While in Genesis we have the firmament of heaven, and then we have the tree of knowledge of good and evil. Now the part about 4 white roots is different, but it's also very similar in theme as well. In Genesis, immediately after talking about the tree of knowledge, it talks about a river that parts into 4 heads. The number 4 definitely stands out to me here. And the more common themes we're able to find, the more and more evident it is that this is not a coincidence. I'll continue reading. There was an ancient chief in the skyland. His young wife was expecting a child, and one night she dreamed that she saw the great tree uprooted. The next day she told her husband the story. He nodded as she finished telling her dream. "My wife," he said, "I am sad that you have had this dream. It is clearly a dream of great power, and as is our way, when one has such a powerful dream, we must do all that we can to make it true. The great tree must be uprooted." This part's really different from the Bible, because in the Bible we've got Eve, the woman, who's commanded, don't eat of the fruit of that tree, right? Don't interact with that tree. But over here in the Onondagan creation story, it's go and interact with that tree, okay? But at the same time, there's kind of like a negative connotation with that tree, right? Then the ancient chief called the young men together and told them that they must pull up the tree. But the roots of the tree were so deep, so strong, that they could not budge it. At last, the ancient chief himself came to the tree. He wrapped his arms around it, bent his knees and strained. At last, with one great effort, he uprooted the tree and placed it on its side. Where the tree's roots had gone deep into the skyland, there was now a big hole. The wife of the chief came close and leaned over to look down, grasping the tip of one of the great tree's branches to steady her. It seemed as if she saw something down there, far below, glittering like water. She leaned out further to look, and as she leaned, she lost her balance and fell into the hole. Her grasp slipped off the tip of the branch, leaving her with only a handful of seeds as she fell, down, 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 down. When Adam and Eve were in the garden, after they partook of the fruit, they got kicked out of the garden and became mortal. This is often described as the fall of Adam and Eve. But in the Onondagan story, rather than it being a figurative fall, it's a very literal fall. She's falling out of the sky down to the water below. Far below in the waters, some of the birds and animals looked up. "Someone is falling towards us from the sky," said one of the birds. "We must do something to help her," said another. Then 2 swans flew up. They caught the woman from the sky between their wide wings. Slowly, they began to bring her down toward the water, where the birds and animals were watching. "She is not like us," said one of the animals. "Look, she doesn't have webbed feet. I don't think she can live in the water." "What shall we do then?" said another of the water animals. "I know," said one of the water birds. "I have heard that there is earth far below the waters. If we dive down and bring up earth, then she will have a place to stand." So the birds and animals decided that someone would have to bring up earth. One by one they tried. The duck dove first. Some say he swam down and down, far beneath the surface, but could not reach the bottom and floated back up. Then the beaver tried. He went even deeper, so deep that it all was dark, but he could not reach the bottom either. The loon tried, swimming with his strong wings. He was gone a long, long time, but he too failed to bring up earth. Soon it seemed that all had tried and all had failed. Then a small voice spoke. "I will bring up earth or die trying." They looked to see who it was. It was the tiny muskrat. She dove down and swam and swam. She was not as strong or as swift as the others, but she was determined. She was so deep that it was all dark, and still she swam deeper. She swam so deep that her lungs felt ready to burst. At last, just as she was becoming unconscious, she reached out one small paw and grasped at the bottom, barely touching it before she floated up, almost dead. This story is putting a lot of emphasis on the effort that these animals took to take care of the woman. When the other animals saw her break the surface, they thought she had failed. Then they saw her right paw was held tightly shut. "She has the earth," they said. "Now where can we put it?"
"Place it on my back,"
said a deep voice. It was the great turtle, who had come up from the depths. They brought the muskrat over to the great turtle and placed her paw on his back. To this day, there are marks at the back of the turtle's shell, which were made by the muskrat's paw. The tiny bit of earth fell on the back of the turtle. Almost immediately, it began to grow larger and larger and larger until it became the whole world. Then the 2 swans brought the Sky Woman down. She stepped onto the new earth and opened her hand, letting the seeds fall onto the bare soil. From those seeds, the trees and the grass sprang up. Life on earth had begun. So this last little bit here is quite a bit different from the Bible. But at closer examination, it's not just different, it's inversed. In the Bible, Adam and Eve are given dominion over the animals. But here, the animals seem to have dominion over the people. They're going at great lengths to protect and care for the people. And instead of God creating the earth or causing the dry land to appear, it's the animals doing that. At this point, to say it was just a coincidence is like saying this, looking like Michelangelo's Sistine Chapel, is just a coincidence. Yeah, there are some major differences, but the commonalities are too strong to ignore. Surely, one culture has influenced the other. This message has been brought to you by the Flat Earth Institute of Science, with a shout out to our Flat Earth friends at jdecals.com, and a special shout out to my friend Sylvia Halpert, whom I met at Oktoberfest 2023. I'm sorry it took me so long to make this video.
That just go beyond coincidence.
For example, my people's traditional name, the Cherokee's traditional name for ourselves is Anikaduaya, which means the principal people of Yah.
And the Cheyenne tribe in the Americas called themselves Tsitzitsa, which means people of the fringes.
Really?
And their cousin tribes, the Shoshone, whose symbol is a rose, we find Shoshana, which is a rose.
Shoshana is a Hebrew word, and if you look at the tribal symbol here, it's the Eastern Shoshone tribe, and in Hebrew, Shoshana means rose, and look, there it is, the rose on their tribal symbol.